Welcome to Recovery Inspired Hope. We're back for part 2 with Sonia Johnson. So excited today. We are about to get down and dirty. We are about to talk to you about the crazy places that addiction brings you, the downward spiral, and everything involved in it. And then we're going to show you the powerful climb into the world of recovery, because truly you cannot know how powerful that climb is into recovery until you've seen all the craziness that we've been in our addiction. Sonia, thank you so much for coming back and hanging out with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me again.
Yes, this is part 2 of our series. And our last video was so awesome. It was so impactful. It helped so many people. I can't tell you how many comments and messages I got. I'm sure you did too, where people were just so grateful to hear the story of recovery for the hope that you shared with them. So that is awesome. So here we are again. So Sonia, let's kind of just start off with where in the crazy depths did addiction take you?
Yeah. So just to give you a little kind of backstory, my addiction started very young. It progressed over the years. There's not a single thing that I tried that I didn't become addicted to, from alcohol to crack to meth to hair, all of it. Everything I ever put in my body, I became addicted to. And there came a point in my life that I could not live without it. It was the only thing that I ever thought about. And I gave away, and I say gave away because I didn't lose, I gave away everything that I loved for whatever drug of choice I had at that point in time. So, my addiction literally took me to the depths of hell. And I don't know if I shared this before, but I always say, like meth, my entrance to hell. That's exactly what it was for me. I experienced some very, very dark things, and I lost my kids as a result of my addiction. I just squandered everything. I didn't have any trust for my family. When I would go to my mom's house, she would hide her purse in her car, put her keys in her pocket. Nobody trusted me, and you could almost bet that I wasn't going to show up if I said I was going to show up. I literally was a failure. That's where my addiction took me to.
So now I love how you just said that, my entrance to hell. Meth. Now we had talked because you had told me that you had been through some crazy similar things that like I had been through with these like weird like cultish people who were like trafficking women and doing witchcraft and all these kind of things. Can you tell me, we hadn't got to talk about this yet. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience with that?
I would love to. So I actually don't usually talk about this. I guess I haven't had the courage to talk about it yet, but I was with a guy who I didn't know at the time. When I got with him, he was a drug dealer. So, everybody wants to be with a drug dealer when you're in active addiction.
Right.
But, when I got there and I moved into his house, because I was running from the cops, they had a warrant for my arrest. So I was hiding in his house. So, I didn't really have a choice to leave. Like, I kind of became a prisoner to that house. And what I found was, over the first couple of weeks, like it was just, you could almost feel the sense of evil in the house. Like I would see shadows, I would hear things. And you have to remember, I was on meth, but I knew that it was more than just the meth. There was something very dark and evil inside of that house. And he didn't allude to it in the beginning. So it took a couple of weeks. And then what I found out one night, so this is what happened, right? I'm going to tell the story. So I would sleep in one room, and I would think, like, I'm his girlfriend. Why wouldn't he want to sleep in the same room as me, right? So I would sleep in one room, and then every morning when I'd wake up, he'd be locked in his bedroom. I'm like, what the hell is going on with this guy? So then after about 2 weeks, I'm like, I know you got a girl in there, right? That's what you're doing. So one morning I woke up, he was locked in the bedroom. I beat on the door. Come to find out, he opened the door and he's like, okay, babe. He's like, I just got to warn you. Something's crazy. You're about to see something crazy. I was like, okay, whatever. So he opened the door. He was dressed in head to toe in woman's clothing, high heels, wig, cut off shorts, like, and I'm talking, this dude is like 6'2", 250 pounds, and he was doing spells in his room, you know? And it was just
Wow.
so bizarre. I never experienced that before, you know, and it was just very, the stuff that he liked to do was very evil. And he wasn't doing it because that was his sexual orientation. He was doing it because, you know, it was part of his dark magic beliefs, you know? So it was just really, really scary. And he started doing spells, you know. I knew I was in a very bad and very dangerous place. And it was just a very scary time.
Like it was almost sounds to me like he had like an old witch living inside of him or something. And
Yeah.
she was like coming out and she's like, okay, now we're gonna dress like me. Like I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna do these spells and I'm gonna make this happen. I was married to a guy who was a sorcerer. And he could write in ancient Hebrew. Like, and would write these spells. And I literally, girl, I'm telling you, I saw the man's face change. Like he did it like 7 times and he laughed and he's like, hi, you like that? And I was just like, whoa, like, what did you just do? You know, like the magic and the demonic doors that open around meth is crazy. I mean, it was even crazier that I married this guy, like knowing that he was this. But he would do all these like crazy tricks. And in the beginning, it was kind of cool, you know, it was almost like he could make pictures in the clouds. Like he could make the clouds move, you know, and make these pictures. And I was like, oh, that's really cool, you know. But then it was like, then he's doing some craziness, you know what I mean? And it's like, he's like, I'm seeing shadow people, and I'm like, I'm high seeing shadow people. This dude is talking to them, like they're having conversation. Like, am I really seeing this? Because this guy's actually talking to these people. Like, how is he talking to the things in my imagination?
Yes.
Unless it wasn't in my imagination. So
Exactly. Yeah, and that it's funny that you say that, because I used to think like that there was two different spirits that had a hold of him, like an older woman and an older man, like a demonic spirit, you know, and you could literally see his demeanor change when that would happen. And the talking, like I remember like he would communicate with me in my mind. It was such a psychological warfare.
yes.
Nobody would believe me. Like it, you know, they're like, okay, you need to stop doing that, like stop doing drugs. But it was more than that. It was so much more than that. And it was so scary.
Absolutely. This guy that I was married to, he would tell me what I dreamed about. He was like, he would be in my dream and then tell me when I woke up, like, yeah, you know, when we were in your dream, we were floating and I was showing you that space. And I was like, whoa, like, bro. But it made me, it tricked my mind and it deceived me into believing that we had some kind of connection and that
Yeah.
I was supposed to stay with him, like not knowing. And this guy actually, he was like, you could call him Antichrist. Like he told me I had to pray to him. I had to pray in his name. I
Wow.
had to that he was Jesus who was coming back. You know what I mean? All this, like, and he really believed it. Girl, he still believes it today. He would say, I am who I am. Like all this, like, and he literally would use scripture, you know what I mean? And it
Wow.
was so scary. And it's so scary that this is like so real. But of course, I
Very.
got locked up in the mental institution 8 times because I'm like, there's these people and they're doing this, and everybody's like, no, you're high. No, there's nobody in black hoods. There's no people, like, no, you're on drugs. And it wasn't until I came into recovery where I had this pastor who was a counselor, who was a deliverance minister, you know, in the apostolic faith. And I told him like about it, and he was the first person to ever believe me. He goes, oh yes, I've seen this before. You were involved in a satanic cult. And I
Yes.
was like, what?
That's exactly what it was. And he would never tell me that he was a Satanist, but he was, because he was the God, right? And the thing that you said about dreams, he would tell me that he would go into this place called the dream state or the dream slate or something like that. I don't know. And he would go and fight off energy vampires in their sleep. What I learned was he was the energy vampire and he was doing sick and sadistic things in his dreams. And I love that you have somebody that validated that, because I had to get delivered from that as well. And I study a lot of deliverance today. And I believe today, but maybe you too, the reason that we had to go through that and experience that evil, dark side is to appreciate the light and to lead others out of the darkness. Because I needed that. That was my rock bottom desperation right there. Never experienced anything like that. So today I'm glad I went through it, because here I am on the other side walking in the light.
Absolutely. And there's so many other women who have been through those things. Yes, girl, he said the vampire thing too. Look, I'm telling you, like, you can't make this up. We've never met. We've never talked about this before. It's crazy. I mean, wow. Wow. That's just mind blowing. Okay. So after, after getting out of that, how did you get away from that?
So the reason that I always say, like when I talk about my arrest, I say I got rescued, right? Because when I was living in a shed with this guy, and that's where I thought I wanted to be. That's where my disease had led me to. The only thing that I was a bed, a dirt floor, no food, no running water, no shower, like nothing. It was just the bed, the dude, and the shed. And, in my heart, I knew how dangerous it was. And I knew that my soul was on the line, right? It wasn't just like, flesh. I knew that my soul was on the line and I wanted to get away, but I didn't know how to say that out loud. And I was scared for my life, not just my life, my whole family's life for that matter, and I got arrested. And that's why I say I got rescued, because there's a song Lauren Daigle sings called Rescue. Says, I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I could get emotional saying it. I hear your SOS, your SOS. And that's what happened to me. When I got to jail, I heard that song and I knew I had been rescued from that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was the same thing how I got out of mine too, is I got arrested. And it was crazy. I got arrested for some crazy charge from like 7 years before that like should have been, gone or whatever. And all of a sudden just popped up. And it was the craziest, like weirdest arrest. Like it was so it almost seemed like it wasn't real. You know what I mean? Like it was like truly like a rescue mission, like you were saying. And when I was in there for 20 days. And when I got out, the guy who was like the head of like the cult died.
Wow.
And I had no place to go, right? Because I would have normally like gone back to that house to get drugs and to get high and have a place. But he was dead. So I had no place to go, which is how I ended up in sober living facility.
Awesome. I love that so much. So the guy that I was seeing, it's really cool how it happened, because a week after I got arrested, the people that owned the trailer that we were in the shed behind the trailer, those people turned on him and snitched him out. He went to jail 7 or 10 days later. If I was there, I would have gone to jail for those charges too. They were gun charges.
Ooh.
He's still currently in jail for that right now, awaiting prison.
Wow. Wow. Yes, you definitely got rescued out of that. Oh my goodness. Wow. So, well, that's amazing. And so how far down more like did you have to go before you actually decided to do something different? And how were your parents? Like, was your family concerned about you? Were they like, where is she?
Oh, yeah. So the reason I actually got arrested in the end is because my mom found my location. She found out where I was at in that shed, and she called Crime Stoppers on me and turned me in. She was terrified for me. I was living with somebody that sold fentanyl and meth, and we were constantly doing it. Matter of fact, the day before I got arrested, I overdosed and fell out on the floor. I woke up 6 hours later. He was sitting right there. Do you think that he cared that I overdosed and was going to die? No, he didn't. by the grace of God, I survived that. I mean, he would not have called the ambulance on me. My family was absolutely terrified. There come a point where my dad just couldn't, he would check in with me occasionally, but he just couldn't talk to me because it was so hard for him, and my mom, she tried so hard. I mean, she tried so hard, but again, she had my kids. So she also had to surrender me. Like, I don't know how my family got through that. And I remember when I finally got to jail, they're like, I'm so glad you're in jail because I can sleep,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Man, I don't know if you can top that story. What else you got for us?
Okay, yeah, that's true. Okay, so I'm going to go in chronological order. I have a couple of stories for you.
Okay.
So Hurricane Irma hit in 2017. I am from Florida. So in Florida, where I live at, Hurricane Irma, the eye went right over us, right? We knew it was coming. At the time, I was on methadone, and the clinic was giving everybody 4 days worth of take home so that they weren't sick during the hurricane. Well, I was too high to go to the clinic because I was also doing meth at the time. And I just was like spooked. So I didn't want to go to the clinic and get my take homes. Well, I went to my mom's house, right? Because that's where my whole family went during the hurricane. Everybody was there. My kids were there. My aunts and uncles were there. My husband was there. Like, my whole family was there. My cousins were there. And Hurricane Irma had just gone by. And so by this point in time, when the hurricane was starting to go by, now I'm starting to get dope sick. And I'm going to need something in order to get by, because the meth is worn off and I'm getting dope sick and my whole family is here. So, I mean, literally, there was still, so I called a girlfriend of mine that lived 2 streets away. And I asked her if she had any opiates, and she did. So she had some opiates, but I had to get to her house 2 streets away.
Love the hurricane.
So the winds had died down to about like 50, 60 miles an hour with gusts. So it's 4 o'clock in the morning at this point in time. So I got into my husband's truck, who was asleep at the time. Actually, right after the hurricane, we checked him in the hospital for endocarditis. So he was very sick at the time. He was completely unconscious. But anyways, I got in his truck at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I started to drive down the road to go to my friend's house. Well, I got like halfway down the road and there was trees down in the road. So I couldn't drive there. So I had to get out of the car and walk through the water to go 2 streets away. Now I'm talking about, I had water like up to my knees almost. About 100 feet from me, maybe a little more than 100 feet, a transformer had fallen. It was sparking. So I could have easily died doing that, right? And there's still winds blowing. So I walked over to my friend's house. I got the pills. I came back to the house, and I like to kind of reference that story. And the reason why is because if I was willing to go out in a fucking hurricane to get dope, then I got to be willing to do that kind of energy for my recovery. If I could do the hurricane, I could do anything for my recovery.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. Girl, you be going to any length. We just go to any length. It don't even matter. Like, whatever we got to do, we got to do. And for sure, that is how you have to chase your recovery. Like, for me, I had to chase my recovery harder than I chased any Roxy, because Roxy's was like the love of my life. So I had to chase my recovery harder than I chased Roxy's. And I did that with my faith too, just chase it, push, obsess over it, like, have it be in every single like strand of your fiber of your DNA, and that's just how you have to do it. You have to be so intentional with it. That is crazy. I can just see you like walking through the water, like the sparks flying, like, wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That is crazy. I mean, I think I've gone through snowstorms, but never a hurricane. I would have, if that was it, but wow. Oh my goodness. Okay. What else you got for us?
Okay. So the first time that I ever tried meth, right? The plan was So my husband and I moved away to Georgia, and the plan was to get off of cocaine because that's what we were doing at the time. The plan was to move away to Georgia, get off of the drugs completely. Well, we got there, and little did I know that my husband's whole family was into manufacturing. And I just didn't know, I'd never even really done meth before. So we get there, my husband's cousin shows up, starts cooking the shit in the house. Like literally, it takes a lot longer to cook than I thought it did. I thought it'd be ready in like 5 minutes. It took like 8 hours, right? So we
Wow.
start doing it, right? And I didn't know what was going to happen. So, anyways, 3 days later, I think I'm not feeling anything. So I decided that I'm going to go and locate some of my drug of choice at the time, which was crack. So I went and got some crack, came back to the house and did it. As soon as I did it, it all kicked in, right? All of a sudden, like I'm freaking out. I'm hearing people outside and I started cooking up this story in my head, right? So all this, I thought that the cops were outside, and I thought there was a like I had a whole story. There was a domestic violence fight outside. The cops were out there. They found out we were cooking in the house, and now they're coming in for me, right? So now I've convinced my husband of this story. And we are both convinced that the cops are on their way. Like literally they're outside. So I call my mom up at 4:30 in the morning because I heard them talking out there, and I heard them say that if my mom gave them the money, that they wouldn't come in the house. So I call my mom at 4:30 in the morning, and I'm like, listen, Mom, the cops are outside. They want you to wire them $4,500 right now, or they're going to come in and they're going to shoot me and they're going to shoot my dog. Now, mind you, while I'm on the phone with my mom, because I'm sure they're coming in to raid the house, I'm literally laying on the ground, face down, with my hands like this and my feet like this, and my dog right next to me. And I'm crying because I just think they're going to shoot my dog. So my husband goes over to the window because we were in a trailer, and you know how trailers have those diamond shaped windows.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes over to the window, and he thought he saw him out there. So he's yelling at him, telling him, just come inside the house, just come inside the house. Well, so they never came in, right? The next day I see my neighbor at the store, and I'm like, did you see all those cops out there last night? No, they didn't. And then we found out that my husband was yelling at his shadow or his reflection in the window. None of it was true. There was no cops. I just lost my freaking mind and involved my mom and stayed on the floor for 8 hours. And that was my first experience with that one.
Yeah. So I went through this thing with crack, and I called it really like the worst year I ever spent in the bathroom because I literally hid in the bathroom for like a whole year and I don't even understand why I continued to do it for a whole year, because every time I would take a hit of crack, I would think that the cops were about to raid my house. Like take a hit. Oh my God, here they come. Like, what is so fun about that? Like what? Yeah. And I was a total window peeper. One time I was looking through the blinds at the neighbors, and the neighbors were peeping back at me. Girl, I fell on the floor. Like, oh my God. It was crazy. I mean, that was probably like the worst. That was like so hard for me. Crack was like, it was so, and it also like, I feel like that like brought me to like the fastest bottom. Like went from like we lived in Riverview, Florida at the time. Me, baby daddy, had our son, had a house on the water, had, a car, he had a good job. I had a good job. And like less than a year, it was like, bam, like everything's like gone. I mean, everything just took me down to this like terrible depth. And then just like the mental of it, you know what I mean? Like, why do I like this? Like all it does is make me crazy, And then I'd be telling people like, the cops are coming, like, shut up. Like, you're such a buzzkill. Yeah, I went through stages too, of my addiction, like so many different stages for each drug. Like it was like, yeah, this one's not serving me anymore, so now I'm gonna go, I went from crack to pain pills. I was like, oh, I can actually function on this. Like I can go to work and I can like do things, But that's how everything went. It was like from one to the next, to the next, to the next.
Yeah.
And just, which one was able to like serve me better. But man, those pain pills, I mean, going from like crack, like that was such a mental, it was like me at 2 o'clock in the morning, like, I'm not calling the guy. I'm not calling, because like for me, all I had to do, I say all I had to do. I just had to go spend the night with the drug dealer, right? And he would give me like an 8 ball of crack, and it's like it was so hard for me to like convince myself that I should just stay at home and not go out there. So it was almost like I had to have like another crutch to go
Mhm.
to. I did not know how to just stop everything.
Yeah, I agree. I think that crack is the most mentally obsessive one. Like you're
Mhm.
willing to go to any lengths, and it consumes your mind so much that you have to do whatever you have to do. It runs out the quickest, and I felt the same way too. Like I didn't enjoy it, but I did it anyways. Like it had the biggest grip on me at the time. And one day I did it and it scared me so bad that I never touched it again. 8 years I did it. And then one day I did it. I thought I was going to die and I never touched it again. Of course, I substituted, went to a different one then, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and that it really affected like that's where like most of my teeth broke and everything, like all my teeth. I remember I was yellow. Like
Yeah.
it made me like yellow. Like my family's like, "Why are you yellow? What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, don't even care. Like don't shower, don't take care of yourself, don't eat, don't nothing.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was so terrible.
Yeah.
Man, what else you got for us? Anything?
Okay. I got one more story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was on probation, right? And let me just like disclaimer this story, but I absolutely love my probation officer. I am so grateful for that man. So he got to see the full turnaround. Like when I first was ordered to probation, I started with him, right? He also violated me a couple times. But anyways, so one day I'm going to probation and I was like always falsifying drug tests. I would put the pee up inside of me and then I would go to probation and I would pop the top. The pee would come out. I'd pass the test. Never occurred to me to stop using because that's not where my head was at. I was just trying to get away with some shit.
Mhm.
So I go to probation in one day and my mom had already called the guy and told him because they were in fear for my life, told him that I was going to be falsifying the drug test. So I get to his office, right? Now, mind you, I'm on probation for smuggling contraband into a detention facility along with some other, narcotic charges. So anyway, so I go to the probation office and this time when I did it, like I had a whole system where I would put it in a bottle, put aluminum foil over the top, wrap it with a rubber band, and then I would go in there, stick my finger through it and it would come out, everything was golden, right? Well, this time I kind of switched up on my system and I decided to use an Aveeno travel bottle, which has a pop top lid. So anyways, so I get to the probation office and probation was hip to my game, right? So the lady goes in there to the drug test room with me. She kneels all the way down where her eye level is literally on my hoo-ha. So I'm like really nervous, right? Because they ain't never done
Very awkward. So awkward.
that. So I popped the top on the lid and nothing comes out of the bottle. I'm like, oh my God, I was freaking out. And I'm like, I guess I can't pee. I'm so sorry. It was 4:55 in the afternoon. So I was hoping they would give me till the next day. And that's what they started to talk about. Well, then I stood up, pulled my pants up, and all the pee come out on my pants, right? So now I'm in pissy pants, but I can't show it because I'm trying to play cool, right? Because I don't want them to know about this fake pee inside of me. So he's like, well, just come back to my office for a minute. We're going to talk and then we'll bring you back in tomorrow. So I go back in the office and little did I know, I probably looked really high, I'm guessing, but little did I know that if you're on felony probation, they have the right to search you and your belongings at any point in time, especially if you bring them into the probation office. So he's like, we're just going to search your purse real quick. And as long as there's nothing in there, you're good to go. Is there anything in there? And I'm like, well, I don't think so. I'm not positive, but I don't think so. So at the time, I had all these gel pens, right? Because I would color all the time when I was in a meth addiction. So he goes and he dumps out my purse and dumps the pens out. And lo and behold, a uncapped sharp or point or whatever you want to call that falls out onto his table. Well, he almost gets poked with it, right? He was pissed. So now I'm in handcuffs in his office with pissy pants on, and he's asking me, you're going to jail, Sonia. He's like, is there anything that you have on your person that you want to tell me about before I take you to the jail? I'm like, no, officer, I don't have anything on me, I promise. So I get into the cop car, right? Because I didn't want him to know I was trying to falsify the drug test. So I get into the cop car and I tell the cop, I'm like, listen, I have this bottle inside of me of fake pee. I don't want to get in trouble for smuggling contraband again, you know. So I get to the jail and the jail's like, well, we can't take her. And I'm like, yes, I'm going home. No. What that really meant was that they have to take me to the hospital and have the bottle removed from out of me before they could process me in the jail. But they had to call my probation officer first and have him come to the jail, write up the PCA of me lying to him. So I had to go to the hospital in pissy pants with a bottle inside of me. It took about 5 hours before I got through the hospital and then got back to the jail finally at 2:00 in the morning after showing up to his office at 5:00 in the afternoon. So moral of the story, it's just easier to not use than to try to get away with some shit.
Man, that was a rough day for you, girlfriend. And they get pissed. I got pulled over one time. And look, I used to collect rocks when I was in my meth addiction because I thought that rocks actually had diamonds and gold in them and I was going to be rich, right? So I was always searching on the ground for these rocks because I was like, there's diamonds and gold. It says it in the Bible. The streets are made with gold. Like, there's rocks everywhere, you know? So I have all these rocks. The cops actually started testing my rocks because they didn't know if it was like some crazy drug or something. And I was like, are you really testing my rocks right now? But they found I had a sharp also in there. And yeah, and the cap came off it and they were pissed. They were like, yeah, you could have stuck me with this. And I was like, that's for my diabetic friend. Okay. Like you can't do anything with that, you know? But man, that was rough. Yeah. Probation was like hard. Yeah. And it was like, man, I remember I got out of jail. I got put on this felony probation. And the first time I went, you know, I couldn't even like stay sober for like 4 days to go see the probation officer. Like I don't know. It was so crazy. Probation is hard. And then I was on it for a couple years. And then I finally got off paper, paid all the fines. Like that was a wonderful day. That was like a super wonderful day. It's almost like, you know, being on probation, you know, I'm grateful for it. I had like 4 years and I think, you know, I probably wouldn't have, you know, gone to sober living if I wasn't on probation because they told me, you know, the judge says, okay, we're going to put you on 4 years of felony probation. That means that you can't get arrested or fail a drug test for the next 4 years. Yeah. And I said, I don't know how to do that. And that's when, you know, I was like, I need help. I need help with this. So when you hit your, you know, all these bottoms, what finally clicked in your head where you were like, you know what, I want to do something different?
Yeah, I love that you just talked about probation because a big part of the reason I got clean, matter of fact, the reason I got clean is because of my legal troubles and my probation. You know, in the last couple of years of my addiction, I didn't like doing it anymore, and I didn't want to be doing it anymore, but I didn't know there was a way out. I didn't think it was possible for me. Not only that, I didn't think that I was worthy of finding another life. So, I was just going through the motions and doing the only thing that I knew how to do, but I wasn't happy because I had given away custody of my kids, and I had given away my marriage, and I had given away my relationship with my family and my friends, and I had become this person that I didn't even know anymore. So that's what happened. Like when I went to jail, that same probation officer that I got caught looking stupid in his office is who I got when I got out of treatment. I went to jail finally on my last violation, got court ordered to treatment, followed by a year of community control, which is house arrest. It's house arrest without a bracelet. And you have to report where you are every second of every day. So you have to report twice a week, once a week, 2 drug tests a week. It's very intensive probation, right? And then I had another year of regular drug offender after that. So, when I got out of treatment and I went back to probation, I also went to sober living because that was the only way that I was going to be able to do this. Like I could not have done this on my own. And, I got to know my probation officer every week when I would go to check in. And he wanted me to do well, but he wasn't going to put up with my bullshit if I wasn't. And I'm grateful for that because I really believe like being on community control, reporting where I was every hour of every day, that taught me how to show up and how to be dependable. And it gave me accountability because in the beginning, I didn't know that I really wanted to stay clean. I just didn't want to go to prison and I wanted to get my kids back. But did I think that I would live this way forever? I don't think so, So that gave me the accountability to when I finally got off of all that, my life had gotten so much better and I didn't want to throw it away. So I really think like that was what changed my life.
Yeah. And I love how you said that too, because that was, me too. Like when I came in like bitter, resentful. I wanted to get a job, take my kids away from my mom, not have to talk to my family ever again. And I was going to get an apartment and I was going to show everybody that I didn't need them, like all this like ego, pride, bitterness. And what happened, same, my life got so good. I didn't want to go back to that. I ended up staying at the sober living facility for 3.5 years because I was terrified of going back to the same thing. And I was safe where I was and my life was so good. And, we had, our sober living was kind of like a campus, like a college campus or whatever. And I had like my own apartment and everything. It was a, tiny little shack or whatever, but it was mine, and I had a bed that was mine. It was safe. I had a dresser, I had a closet, I had TV, I was living the good life. I had food in the fridge.
Yeah, there's something to be said about that though. Like when you have your own space and you're paying your own rent and you're working and you're to the best of your ability being a good person, like that makes me feel so good, and I think that's how I built my self-esteem back up, was just by being that person that I've never been before.
Absolutely. And to go from, hiding in a shed with the guy doing, that man was going to sacrifice you, girlfriend.
I'm telling you. Yes.
To being in that dangerous situation to, coming through this road where you're even willing to be compliant to probation. I mean, that right there speaks volumes, because you were in such rebellion and such like, I'm going to do what I want to do. And all I care about is getting high and nothing else matters, to, okay, I'm going to work with this authority figure, which nobody ever wants to do that. Right. And I'm going to see what's on the other side of this. I'm going to trust that there's a bigger plan in my life. And there was such a bigger plan for your life, because now you have, you like touch the hearts of so many people. I am just so proud of you and like so happy, because there are not a lot of women who are speaking out about recovery. They're, and even in the community here, where I live, like there's a lot of men, but it seems like the women, which I'm not, knocking them for this. They get their families back, they get their children back, they start working jobs, and they have to really focus on that. You know what I mean? Like, so we don't have a ton of women who are out here shouting, recovery is great, and this is what it can do for your life, and this is what I've been through, and this is where you can go to if you will just stick with this program. So I'm so happy that you get to touch the hearts of so many people, being like a strong woman, and we need more of that. We need more women who are willing to speak out and share their story and talk about being a mom and being a wife, and the craziness where they came from, and showing that what, like, you can do so much more than you thought you could. And I love the fact that you are also a career woman, right?
Yes.
You're a boss babe.
Yes.
So tell us about what you're doing with your career now.
So I just recently went in front of the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, and I'm a convicted felon. So I'm working on getting my real estate license right now. And that was a lost dream that I had a long time ago. I actually tried testing for this 10 years ago when I was in my addiction, and I couldn't get it, because I was high. But that's like a lost dream that's been awakened for me today. I went in front of them and spoke my truth, and they granted me to be able to test and become a realtor in the state of Florida, which is amazing. Like, I know for a lot of people, getting a job and finding a career as a convicted felon is hard. And I'll give you that. It is hard, but it's not impossible,
Absolutely. And yeah, and I know the realtor, the board for realtors is no joke. They look at everything, like, they scrutinize everything that you have done. I mean, even to the tiniest thing, they're super strict, especially I had the same, with the massage board. Me, like, please give me a massage license. Oh, you're a drug addict and ex-prostitute.
Right.
You want us to give you a license to be a healthcare provider where you put your hands on naked people? Are you serious right now? And I had to go in front of them 3 times. And like the third time I was like, please, like this, I am not that person anymore. This is what I've done, and started my own business, one best of the best for massage therapists. I'm on my 2nd year right now in the running for best of the best massage therapist, small business owner, woman owned business. I mean, that is incredible. Like we were in hell, slithering on our stomachs, and God has redeemed and restored and given us back more than we ever could have imagined. And that is just the power of recovery, man. It is just crazy. It is just crazy. And also, I have to point out also your fitness transformation. Okay, girlfriend, you are smoking. Okay. And to see, all the hard work that you put, because recovery is a mind, body, soul, spirit, everything, right? Yeah. So your fitness transformation is just beautiful. The Lord has really just like, he's shining through you, and you can see it. It is so evident. And I love that. Because, the in recovery weight can be super triggering, right? I mean, at 18 months sober, I was a size 22, 230 pounds. Like, I was like, I got to do something because I want to go get high to get this weight off again. You know what I mean? So being able
how to lose weight.
Yeah. Yes. Right.
But not in a healthy way, but
not in the healthy way. Yeah. So, I mean, it takes major dedication, to be on a fitness pathway, on a health journey. So that is amazing that you've done that too. So, well, thank you so much for coming and talking with us again. I feel like we just have like so much in common,
I
and
do
I'm
too.
just like so proud of you. I'm just so excited for you and everything that is going on and God is doing in your life. I mean, I see it. I mean, you are just so blessed, like all the way around, and your words and your videos bless people every day, and God really honors that. So thank you so much for your service
Absolutely.
and everything. And everybody make sure you I'll put her link tree in again in the video and everything. But man, this was awesome. Thank you so much. Make sure you guys check out subscribe to Recovery Inspired Hope. And Sonya's going to be starting YouTube also. Yes. So we are going to be I'm definitely going to be helping promote her YouTube so she can just bring you guys more hope and more inspiration. So awesome. Thank you. You guys, we will see you next time. Bye.